So, hello everyone. Welcome to another Friday afternoon, night, morning, depending on where you are at the Sunken Blimp Stage. For those that don't know me, my name is Mateus. I'm one of the co-founders of Sunken Blimp, and it's a pleasure doing these dive lives. Dive lives are basically around 20-minute presentations with interesting speakers. It's the time that we bring someone that we think could be a large amount of inspiration and very interesting content creators doing absolutely amazing work, and we invite them to come and take on the stage for a couple of minutes to showcase what they're doing, who they are, what they are about. And this is something we've been doing for a while. It's something we're not gonna stop anytime soon. So thank you all for joining us here today. And today our dive live presenter is a very important person, Francisco Rossi. And just to give a little bit of background of who he is, Fran Rossi is an art director and 3D designer based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's focused on designing abstract compositions with a keen eye on textures that are beyond realistic and also photography. Someone is speaking. All right. So about Fran Rossi, as an art director, he's also worked primarily on 3D and CGI design for print, advertisement, web, branding, and motion. Each post on his portfolio showcases his skills and proves that he knows what he's doing, but precisely, creating these mysterious and almost tactile surfaces that, anyone can appreciate in his art. Literally, this is a little bit of the introduction. After, you're going to see the level of detail and care that he does on his own artwork. So without further ado, thank you, Fran, for being here, and take it away.
Okay, thank you, guys. First of all, I really want to thank you, the Camilo and Matt of Sunken Blimp, for inviting me to this. It's quite an awesome experience. I think it's the first time that I join a virtual space or stage like this, and it's pretty exciting to move around and just to see how much you can do. I was really amazed that I can do this little dance. Of course, move around the stage. So I'll be talking about my work and a little bit about my career. I hope I can entertain you guys, and you can ask me then anything you want. You can feel free to move around to check some of the work. I think that's nice to have this kind of virtual stage that you can be checking the pictures or the animation while I talk a little bit about everything. I wanted to start at first introducing myself. My name is Francisco Rossi. Everybody calls me Fran. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my country first, because I think that's a big influence in my career.
Sure,
and also I think many good designers from here that I wanted to show you a little bit of the background that got me there. I study at the University of Buenos Aires in the architecture and design department. I wanted to show a little bit about how the university is, because it's so big and so chaotic that I think it's funny for you to see that. For instance, this picture is showing how we work at the university, and the amount of people and just the mess around the deliveries of the project. And I think it's something that is really influence on my work, because it's so heavy and so much work that I think it was a really good training for what I did next. And I learned so much here that I want to a little bit be grateful to the university for giving me everything, and it's like a free state university. So I wanted to take just a minute to talk about that. And also because I studied at first product design. It's called industrial design in Argentina, and it's the same of product design. I know there are many people around the world here, and I want to clear that out first. And that's actually the way I learned 3D. I was like self-taught in 3D, and we have like the experience of experiment and try new stuff with that. And I think that's really cool because you learn so much and you're like get so much training for the real world and try to get to the point where like you are really trained to actually get your own kind of art and try to do these experiment types and not having these especially guidelines that maybe in other countries or other people get. And I think that's pretty awesome. There's so many good Argentinian designers that I'm really proud about how we have this kind of training and how people are like really successful about every part of the world. So that's like a really small intro, and then of course I'm going to talk a little bit about my work. You can find out here, like if you go around the stage, I think you can look a little bit about the stuff I made, and I think Matt and Camilo had special time to organize that a little bit, and I'm really grateful to them because they have put so much effort. And like it's so nice to see every part of the project like put together and see how it looks on a virtual stage. I I want to talk a little bit first about my influence. I was really interested at first on the history of design and especially the movements of the at first of the 20th century. I think that I relate design, of course, with the world context. I think that you cannot be a designer without thinking or taking the time to think about the historical projects and processes that are happening. I think that like at this point we are maybe all like thinking about how the pandemic and the war and everything is like affecting our work and somehow or influence that, and we're kind of making some stuff that we're like affected for. And I think that it's a really important part of the work to have this in mind, because when I was learning about the Bauhaus movement or maybe the Russian art movements that are really a big influence in my work, like the geometrical stuff and the way they can synthesize and like a minimal kind of design or a transcendental kind of design. So I think that's a really nice way to design, and I think it's really important to keep this in mind when you create a piece of work. So I think that the way that I was influenced in the Bauhaus movement or the rational and really like clean geometrical Russian movements is because the way that the world was like behaving in that part. I think that it really got my interest in how the way they transcend that. So I think that that's like a really small intro of how I got here, because at first it was like mostly, I think, detailed figurative work, and then I got so like interested in more geometrical stuff. And I don't know, I just wanted to say that to keep this in mind, because I think that if you want to be a designer that is like contemporary, or maybe you want to know like what's the way that you got inspired, is like you have to keep this in mind, of course. Then I want to talk about a little bit about some different projects I don't want to bore you a little bit with this, but I think there are a little stages of my work, like different kind of project that I've done so far. And I think that at first I started with more complex or just really detailed kind of projects, and then I got to do this kind of um, try to find my own way or my own kind of design. And I think that's like a really complex process, but really interesting. And I think it's like the hardest part to achieve, because getting your own design way or your own style is something that is not easy to get. And I think it's maybe the most frequently asked question for me is like, how did you get there? How do you get your ideas? And I always tell people that maybe it's like a process of experimentation, that it doesn't have to be always about just design. It's more about the personal feelings that you have and how to express that and how to like to put that the feelings that they got when they saw my work, and the different kind of interpretations that people have. Like maybe I get some feedback from some random people around the world saying like, hey man, like this reminds me of this special place or this special time of my life. And I think that's a really nice feeling or a really nice feedback to have, because it's all about, I think, the way that people react to your work. That really amazed me. This part, for instance, I'm going to try to get closer to the stuff that I want to show. I'm really sad that I don't have a VR headset, because I think this is something that it must be really fun to walk around with a proper VR headset and just like move around and see everything
You might get
around
a
the.
VR headset. Maybe next giveaway. We just hosted a giveaway and we gave one of the community members a VR headset. So maybe next time we do a giveaway, you can win one.
Okay, I keep that in mind. But I was having really fun about seeing that I can like do this kind of dancing and move around, and I don't know. I was so having fun doing these kind of things. Well, this kind of work was like the first thing that really pops my mind. I think this is not something that is really old work, but it's something that I think it shows like the minimal way of showing the things that I like, because I think you have to start with like complex stuff and then try to get to like transform that in a way that shows your inner identity. And I think that's really hard to do, and it takes really a lot of time, but it's a really fun process. And I got to a point where I was like thinking that maybe the best way to show my kind of work or my style was trying to. I see this guy dancing and it makes me laugh so fun. That maybe you see my work now and it's mostly spheres or just like random geometric stuff with different kind of textures. And I like this because I think it's a really simple way to show really cool compositions and try to put an eye on textures and really get to a point where the main composition is like just really simple and maybe with really cool and novel textures, that's it, like metal, wood, glass. Maybe you see that I often use this kind of textures, and I think that's the way, because
It appears that we lost our speaker. Maybe he got too carried away with the spheres and the materials. uh, but chances are that he's back. There we are. And I think we lost you for a second. We got kicked out of the stage, or you had to go back to the surface to take a breath. Uh, since we're underwater, we can use that as an excuse. Fran, were you able to join us back? I think you're muted. There we go.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. Just made me reload the page, the website. Okay, thank you guys for being patient and I'm getting used to this kind of interface, and of course it's something new for me and for everybody. So like I was saying, I think I get inspired by a lot of stuff that is mostly geometrical, and I was saying, I was really influenced on Bauhaus and the Russian art movements, and this, I think this batch maybe shows a little bit of the mixture between that and the stuff that I'm used to do and I was used to do in college. Also, I really like this kind of landscape stuff because I really like to be in the nature, and I really appreciate going away on trips and seeing different landscapes. And I know that it's something that, like, I think is really hype right now because everybody's kind of doing these kind of things, but I try to get inspired, especially in Argentinian landscapes, because we have a really, really big country, maybe compared to Europe or I don't know exactly where are you from, guys, but it's nice for you to check some of this stuff out, because I really recommend the people to maybe visit the country and see the amazing landscapes that we have. And I think this is like a really cool way to show maybe the same composition that I was talking earlier, but in a context that also pops something from the viewer. And I think this really is something that I find eye-catching, and I think that it's a nice way to express something that has to do with like a mixture of the simple composition in maybe a complex or a more complex nature context. So I think this is something that I really enjoy doing right now, and I think I really like to get different color palettes and try to figure out how they would look really good, or really like it doesn't breaks the landscape. It does looks like something that is there, and it's kind of funny because I made this kind of composition also with pictures that I took in some places in California, and I was doing this kind of intervention, and I was having this comment from different kind of people telling me how you put this kind of fear in I don't know, like Yellowstone Park, like you get some kind of permission from the authorities to put this, and I was like, no, it's only 3D. But it was a nice feeling to see that the people that saw that was thinking that I was actually making this kind of art exhibition in the middle of the desert, and I think that's a good way to show the artwork that I do. So I really appreciate that Camilo and Matt took the time to putting everything together. And if you see that the mountains are like continuing, so it's like a really, really big landscape put all together, and I think it's really fun to see that. Also, I know that maybe I only using spheres to this, but I think that this is a way to show in a simple way the environment and try to get to a cool composition and not to overwhelm the viewer with like a really complex stuff. Like I don't want to put like a machine or a car or something that messes the scene up. I just want to make it simple and let people appreciate this. So I think this is the inspiration I get when I put this everything to make these landscapes. Of course, like you can see that I have these kind of things, more geometrical kind of composition flying around the place. And this is something that I also love because I can put a really special eye on the textures and the colors, and something that is really appealing to me. And I really like to put like a lot of time trying to see how you can combine the different kind of textures and the colors. And I made so much stuff of this that I don't have the time to post it, or I don't want to overwhelm the viewers, but I think it's a really fun way to work things out. Um, Also, you can see that I try different lightings or different places. Maybe this is darker, maybe the other ones are more lit and maybe more clean. And there's a really fun way to explore these kind of things. And I try to do this in between commercial works because I get really bored about working for agencies or brands that maybe just want a beer bottle in the middle of something and just, okay, we have to show the product. But I think at the end is something that I can take some part of that and build something that is nice for me to see. And I think that's the fun part of my work, because it triggers some different kind of feelings. And I think that maybe mixing this kind of commercial project with, I think that something that I have in mind, it really gets me to an interesting place that maybe I wouldn't think about that if I had to design something from scratch. So I think I would recommend, if you're doing some commercial work and you're getting bored of that, you can just like try to take one part of that and try to get that to a place that you like. Um, and I think this process like evolves and gets you to different kind of places. Like I think I was doing a commercial project and I wasn't happy about it, but I don't know why it triggers me to design some different kind of stuff, and I ended up doing all this kind of composition that were mixing organic stuff or just stones and metables. And I know that maybe it's something that you see often, but I think it's funny how it appeals people, because it's something that maybe you don't see in real life, or it's something that's it's quite surreal. And I get to a point where I know that 3D art tends to go to a surreal kind of place, and you can see how Magritte or Dali and other big artists like had a heavy influence on these kind of projects. But I think the trick is to get to a balance between what you think that is something that's interesting you, and how to take this influence and put it on your work, and how to mix that with a color palette that you feel like is something that represents you. And it's funny because I think this kind of project that I think are the ones that I made, and I think the ones that are interesting to me now, um, it's quite full because I can mix nature that I really like, and I really like to take pictures and textures from the nature and mix it with a digital environment, and I think that's a really nice ways to use the technology to mix that with art. And of course that takes me to, I think, one of the last topic I wanted to discuss. I don't know, Camilo, how much time I got to, or I have to keep talking about this.
We're right on the end point. So if you want to, wrap up in a bit, that would be great. But yeah, you can make a last point for sure.
Okay. No, I was thinking about how to mix digital art with real stuff work, and I was thinking a lot about how technology is like influence on art. And I was talking to Camilo and Matt the other day, and they were talking about the new kind of artwork and metaverse and algorithm, and I was really intrigued, and I've been thinking a lot lately about how much technology and the the commercial part of the art and the business of the art is influencing on the artwork. And I think that's something that is now um, keeping some is putting some time in my mind about the future of technology regarding art. And because I think that the way that algorithm and social media is influencing on architecture and design and also movies, and I think every kind of art discipline. And I'm I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I think it's really interesting, like the amount of work that you see right now. And I'm a little worried about the saturation of the art, and I don't know exactly how it's going to end. But I think we have to try to find a balance between making some stuff and try to making project, but not saturated the viewer, because I think that in every art discipline is happening that you get so much information or so much music, so many series, so many movies, that at the end you get, I think you get bored so quickly that you need to be like all the time creating stuff. And I don't think that's like a good way to create art. Or I think that's, I don't know how we should do it, but I think that it's good to have or take the time to develop something that it shows your art or your feeling, and it doesn't get lost on the algorithm or the social media and, well, everything that I think you all know about it. And to finish this up, like, okay, thank you guys. I'm going to do this dance of like a thank you dance. I don't know if I can dance like this in real life, but this is really fun to watch. And I really want to thank again Camilo and Matt for putting like this. I don't know how they did it, but they put this real 3D model on stage, and you can see this, not this one, but this branch with some geometry that it's really amazing to see that in a digital environment. So I'm really thankful for them. And okay, you just tell me, Matt, if you want me to take some questions or if you want to add something more. I don't want to get past my time. I know that you want 20 minutes. I think it's like half an hour now, but
No, but it's
I
all
don't know if
right.
you want
And
to.
I would just like to say thank you so much Fran, for bringing your work, your story to the stage. This is extremely valuable listening from you. Seeing how you got to this and how you think about compositions with geometry and the backstory behind what you put together. And I would like to make a remark, and for this I will go in front of the landscape pieces here in the back, because there's one thing that came to my mind, and we were speaking before this, right, backstage, and we spoke about some of my interpretations of the art and etc. But if you guys come here and take a look at the landscape one thing that came to mind is I was thinking about the intersection between architecture and art, right? And of course that these are conceptual, they show different spheres and different scenarios, but one thing that we learn in architecture, for example, is how different spaces make you feel, right? The actual human response to specific spaces, materials, etc. Thinking about the experience of what it is to be a human. And that's not only something that is a worry of the architecture community. Everyone in this planet feels things, right? And the interesting thing here is how each of these pieces of this collection portrayed somehow some sort of feeling, some sort of meaning behind it, even though it's not implicit, even though it's not clear, right? And I was looking at these, and it's so interesting. If you exercise trying to make up one word to describe the sphere in each of these, you could come up with a couple of answers. For example, the one with the mirror right in the center here, the idea of self-discovery, or or the feeling of watching yourself in this whole terrain, but kind of asking, who am I, or what is this? It's something that comes to mind. Or as well as the sphere, the golden sphere next to the other shapes, the feeling of trying to fit in, even though you never be the glass panel. It's almost playful in the sense of imagining the spheres having some sort of feelings and thinking how the materials can illustrate that somehow, especially this one that is the dark stone. This one for sure, it gives to me the mentality of trying to be protective or building this fortress around, almost like pushing things out. But at the same time, it's the only sphere that is made out of glass, which is the most the most fragile out of all of them. So in a way, the different materials and compositions kind of allows you to think of a narrative, and that's kind of a great exercise when thinking about what to make people feel when you're using materials, when you are doing these different details, right? And that's something that is interesting that comes to mind. And what we were talking backstage is the idea that all of your work seems to be somehow from the same universe, right? It's almost like you started creating this overarching narrative of a whole world, and these are different terrains, different parts of this universe. And then within this universe, you're using geometric shapes and materials to tell the story. So I think, that's from my perspective, analyzing your art, of course, but still, even though if that's not in the front of your mind when you're creating these, this is something that people from other disciplines can take your work and apply to their studies, apply to their analysis of the world in a way. So I just wanted to make those remarks, and the floor is open if anyone has any questions. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was really when we were talking backstage with Matt and Camilo, and I was thinking like it's so interesting to get to the other person's like view or feeling about this, because it's so really surprising to maybe to get to know what the viewers are getting and what kind of feeling they're triggering their minds. And when Matt was saying all these kind of things, I was really amazed how like the feeling that he has about this work and the way he was interpreting in this. And I think one big part of for me to be using this kind of really simple shapes is to not get the viewer to a special place and not try to guide them to okay, this is like maybe a chair or some really object that you see in real life, but in another way, like he was saying about this this project of the sphere and the back mirror, and he was like seeing himself and trying to have this feeling and like maybe self-discovering. And I think that's really amazed me, because when somebody maybe writes me over Instagram or just send me a random email telling me about like something that he or she felt watching my work, and it's really amazed me, because maybe it has nothing to do when I was thinking about it. Like I was designing something with an idea, and then the other people see it, and it's nothing like that. So I think that's a really big part of my work, and I think it's a really nice reward to have that feedback that maybe is really nothing alike, or maybe nothing compared to the thing that I was thinking when I was designing this. So I, of course, if somebody wants to ask me or have this maybe feeling or thoughts about my work, it's nice to hear that. So I don't know, Camilo, if you want to, I don't know how to open the mics or questions, or if anybody wants to ask me something, feel free to do that.
Can you
Thank
hear
you,
me?
guys. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Fran. It's Sol. I'm really loving this experience. It's amazing. I can't believe it. I feel like I'm in an art show of yours, and I'm very happy. My question is, principalmente, do you have theories or questions? Do you have thoughts that you put into your work, stories behind them, or is it just feelings, textures, and colors?
I think that I have some, of course, I try to work with some feelings that I have at this moment, or maybe when I'm designing or doing some personal work. I try to get like the inspiration from something that I see in reality, like maybe some landscapes of Argentina or some other place that I visit, like when I was traveling through Japan or California. I was really getting inspired by the landscapes. But I don't know, it's like maybe a natural process that it comes like I think in a fluent way. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's something that just I think happened, and maybe it has to do with something that I'm doing at the moment, but or maybe it doesn't. Just like some random stuff that I'm designing at maybe midnight, or I was just like maybe a little stone, and I try to do that, and I don't know. It's a different kind of way, but I think that the result is quite amazing. And yeah, I think there's a lot of the feeling put in this, and like I said before, it's really amazing how everybody sees something different. And I think that um, I think that that's like the end of the process, when I think that, okay, I feel this is okay and this looks good, and that's something that maybe I learned from other artists. And when you find that something is okay, you just have to stop there and okay, finish your work. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's a little bit of the process.
One thing that I would add, Fran, is this idea of not
Yeah.
necessarily focusing on a feeling, right? I think that in a way allows for a feeling, even if it's unintentional, to come through and surface without the intention of seeking to show it, right? Because if you're focusing on a specific feeling and try to recreate it, now you're forcing and thinking about it. But this idea of, just modeling things at 12 a.m., and things just happen in a certain way and okay, something specific, now you're not confining yourself to a specific direction, but you're working until it feels right, right? So in a way, it could be reflecting what you're feeling, even though it's not the intention somehow. Because I'm not, imposing like, yes, it is feeling. This is your work, and I'm not telling you what this is, of course. Uh, but it is a strong thing for, at least for me, when I'm looking at it. I do see feeling. So even though you might not be trying to add feelings in it, definitely feelings come out of it, right?
Yeah, I know. I think that especially not forcing anything is like a key part of the design or the every
क्या कह रहे
creative
थे हम?
process. I think.
मैं दूर
Sorry.
चली गई थी तो मैं ना वो दिखा रही थी.
Okay, I don't know if that was a question or maybe an open mic, but no. What I was saying that maybe I think that not forcing a creative process is a really key part of the having something that you're at the end happy about it, because I think that one thing that you learn in design school or I think maybe with the time or experience that maybe something that looks forced or pretentious is something that is not going to work. At least for me, I think that I try to do stuff that it doesn't look like you had to do some, I don't know, to force that to work, because it's not going to work. I think that even that, or maybe also if you find that pretentious, I think that's like the worst part of the creative project. If I see a result that looks pretentious and I think that's not a good way to design, and that's why maybe why I prefer to do simple composition, because I think that's like a more subtle or maybe humble way to design, and not to do something that I want to do this really big, amazing piece of artwork. It's just like trying to show some random thoughts or something that you just find that looks nice. And I'm not looking for something that is like, okay, this it has to rock the world or just like go and amaze everybody. It's just something that, okay, I'm happy with this, and maybe other people are going to be happy with this, and I think that's like a good, really creative process for me. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we do our work.
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
I think my mic's not working, but I want I wanted to ask something because
Oh, and we lost you.
Oh, sorry. I think we lost. I don't know who was asking that question, but if you can ask it again, maybe got disconnected. I don't know.
I think he was having problems with internet connection, but
Okay.
but yeah, yeah. If he can't join in time, just want to go ahead and say thank you so much, Fran, for coming here, talking about your work, and just letting everybody know that this stage is gonna still carry your work for the next few days. So if you want to invite someone to check out the work, or even you, Fran, if you want to come back, invite people and show your work from here, the stage is gonna be open. And again, thank you all so much for coming here for another dive live. Um, I mean, we've all been having so much fun, and I always see familiar faces, people that are coming with us every time. This is so amazing. And thank you, Fran, for being part now, being an official Dive Live speaker. And yeah, and also before we continue, I just want to point out that next week we're actually going to review a couple of thesis projects from the Florida International University School of Architecture. So we're not going to have a traditional dive live on stage, but we're going to be sending you guys, content and the different projects going on the university, so you guys can check out, and then we're going to bring the boards, presentations, models onto the stage, so you guys can see the different projects. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out when I still have everyone here. But yes, to finalize, thank you, Fran, again. If you have any closing remarks, and yeah.
No, I wanted to thank you a lot again to you, Matt and Camilo, for inviting me here. It's been really a quite nice experience. I mean, this kind of virtual stage is something really amazing, and I just congratulate you for that, because it's a really cool experience. And like Sol was saying, like it's like having this kind of art exposition in 3D or virtual stage. So I'm really thankful about it, and I want to thank everybody who took the time to listen to what I have to say. And of course, like Matt said, feel free to join the next talk. And I think it's going to be also in YouTube, so I probably will be sharing the link. Or if somebody wants to still ask a question, you can drop me a line over Instagram or Twitter, and we can continue the talk. So thank you everybody for joining this, and I'm really happy to have this talk and just talk about my work. So really, I'm really thankful from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys.
Do we take a selfie yet?
Yes, let's take a
Well, I don't
let's
know.
take a picture, everyone. Let's take a picture when we're all here.
A picture with landscape at the background.
All right, can everyone face my way? This way, where I'm here, like dancing. Mr. No Name, could you go down a bit so you're with everyone else? All right, I'll count to 3. So position yourselves. Hey, Fran, you can go a bit further so you're like show more in the picture. All right.
There?
Oh, too
Wait,
close, too close.
wait.
You can go a bit backwards.
There? Okay.
All right, so 3, 2, 1. I'm taking a bunch, so move, dance. Hey.
There.
All right,
Okay,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Matt.
you so
This is
much
really
again,
fun.
and have a beautiful Friday, and catch you guys on Discord.
Cool. Thank you guys.